I'll go ahead and call the meeting to order. Roll call will show all members present. We have an agenda in front of us this afternoon. I would entertain a motion to approve that agenda.
So moved. Second.
Motion made by Mr. Schmidt, seconded by Mr. Rauch to approve the agenda. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. The purpose of this afternoon's meeting is to continue or start the superintendent finalist interviews. And with that, we will be waiting briefly here for Harold Remy to introduce Mr. Michael Miak.
Yeah, you can do that. We get to go back up to it.
Hello again, everyone.
Good afternoon.
So I learned something, I think, earlier this afternoon. This is Michael Maya. I always keep on pronouncing Miak. I'm
That's
sorry.
right.
Okay.
I apologize.
Well, I appreciate you straightening that out because I was wondering the same thing. So one more time for us slow learners in the district.
Well, we always, our kids and stuff too, and explaining it, M-Y-H-A-W-K, my hawk.
Okay, all right,
So,
all right.
my grandparents, my aunts and uncles, they're Mayhawks, but you don't have to get into that then. But we're Mayhawks.
All right, well, I appreciate that, and I apologize if I've been
No,
addressing
no,
you
no, no.
improperly, so.
Not a problem.
Well, once again, welcome back to the NRHEG School District. We're excited to learn more about you here this afternoon. You're probably familiar, but we have, I believe, 15 or 16, no, 21 questions here this afternoon. to
Three
get
questions for each person.
So we will work through those, and like I said, excited to learn more about you. But
Good, good.
with that, I will start off with, our district has just experienced a global pandemic. Options on the proper response to the pandemic ranged from ignoring it to completely closing the school. How would you work to bring situations where opinions between stakeholders have such a wide range to a fair and safe solution?
Yeah, absolutely. And you know, how are we working through it right now? Obviously, at the building level, we have some directives and some leadership from above, and obviously our district and districts are learning as we go and listening to the governor and listening to the county and listening to the Department of Health and Department of Education and kind of taking that and putting it together. And that's, you know, basically what we do within our building too, that we have some flexibility to, you know, set things up or work through some of the logistical things of it in our building, and we've taken a very, I should say, we've taken a strict, you know, very safe stance on those sorts of things. In our district, our students are not back in full time yet. Our elementary has been for quite a while, and coming 4 or 5 days a week. And on March 29th, 6 through 8 or 6 through 12, in the Faribault Public Schools will be coming back in person. So, you know, it really is part of that whole listening process, get a read from the community, knowing what the community is looking for. I could not imagine being a parent of an elementary student, you know, the difficulties that you or they have gone through, having to work, having to have your students at home and juggling all those sorts of things. So those sorts of factors, and again, looking at what our community is asking for and our kind of the stance of the community is very important. You know, and listening and working together, we're always going to take the recommendations. We're always going to lean on the experts and find out the practices, you know, what we can do, the logistics, the setup that works best, that has worked in other places, and make sure that we have that. And it goes without saying, but I'll say it, that obviously the safety of our students, the safety of our staff members is our primary focus. And knowing that all families are going back to different situations, some of them with grandparents and some of them with other health concerns, you know, those are the factors that we have to look at. And put those pieces together and move forward based on all those different factors and making sure that students are safe and staff are safe.
Thank you.
Yeah.
What strategies would you use to build trust and support from staff, parents, and the community?
You bet. It really, I think that's who I am as a person. That's who I am was as a teacher. That's who I am as a building administrator. I think I work on relationships. I work on the climate and the culture of the building is very important to me. Making sure that staff want to come to school, that they want to be part of the programs that we have here and working together as a team. So I think my strategies is be myself. Go out and have communications, go out and make those connections, build trust by making respectful, timely decisions, making decisions that are based on research or data, and standing firm on the decisions that are being made as well. And I pride myself that obviously in the different committees and groups and whatnot that we work with, we don't always have the same ideas, or we don't always have the same thoughts. But anytime I'm working with a group or an individual, I want to make sure that they understand why that decision was made, and they can respect that decision based on the premise that I've come together and put together and the research that I've done to make that decision. So really just being who I am, being that good listener, being an open person, respectful type person, I think that builds that trust and builds that relationship and that team effort that we need.
Thank you.
How would you facilitate and organize our curriculum in a way that would increase student achievement, especially for those who have fallen behind due to COVID?
Sure. Yeah. Very important, obviously. And the first part of the coming into a district, it would be taking the time and making the conscientious efforts to get to know the district, get to know the staff, but also get to know the curriculum and what's taking place in the classroom and what's worked and whatnot. That really our system is based on the different standards and the different benchmarks that we have within our district or within our state, and making sure that the staff is very aware of those standards and those benchmarks, and we built our curriculum around those requirements. But also being aware of the trends, being aware of the different things that are out there is very important. Making sure that our staff is well informed and trained in those areas and has that comfort. We don't have to jump on every band or wagon that goes by, and what we kind of sink our teeth into or hook our anchor up to has to be purposely thought out, and again based on research and data. But making sure again that the staff is aware of those opportunities, that we have our finger on the pulse of what's happening out in the educational world, and then bringing that and making sure that fits into our classrooms and what works for NRHEG.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Please describe your experience and programs that you've used to create a positive learning environment and to reduce bullying in schools.
Sure. Probably the most notable in our building, we had our PBIS program, and we subscribed. We were an official member for a number of years, and for the most part, I guess we don't pay that annual fee anymore, and we kind of just run that program and a lot of the best practices that go along with it. But our AVID program is also centered around a lot of best practices and strategies, classroom strategies and management type strategies. And they literally have taken bus loads of staff members up to the AVID National Convention that has been held in Minneapolis for probably the last 4 or 5 years. And like I said, literally taking bus loads of staff members up to this this AVID conference, so they can learn and understand and grow in the different best practices that are being taught and you know, being used within the classrooms. At our first interview, I talked about our site council, or I talked about the different leadership groups that we have, and our site council is a big part of that as well. And again, one of their main focuses is the kind of the logistical things that take place in the classroom, and you know, the rules, the policies, hats, no hats, backpacks, you know that part of it, our handbook type things. And using the staff members to, you know, tell me or tell us what's happening in the trenches, and know what's taking place in the classrooms, and making sure that their opinions and their ideas are being heard, and then putting together and either having that as a building-wide expectation or a grade-level expectation, depending on the situation. You know, reaching out and being and using our staff members, having our staff members involved, and part of that process that works for the building or the grade level.
Thank you.
How often and for what reason should a superintendent visit school buildings to see students and staff at work?
Yeah, I think the best answer I can come up with as much as possible. Obviously, there's a large number of responsibilities that have to be taken care of and that have to be addressed by the superintendent. And that will require you know, time in the office, time meeting with the board members, time meeting with the community members, but losing track of the classroom and making sure you don't lose class or touch with the classroom is also very important. So I said before, I believe it was a group that this group that the dreaded lunchroom supervision duty, that as principals, that's not such a bad deal. It's maybe not the highest thing in our list, but it gives us that chance to be out there and make those connections and have those conversations with the students. So you know, those are the things that are very important. The students remember those sorts of things, and it is part of building a culture and building a community that works together. So knowing the teachers, and not just that third grade teacher over in Ellendale, but knowing you know the name of the teachers and knowing as much about them is again building that trust, building that relationship, and putting things together. So it's high on my list.
Thank you.
Please share some strategies that you would use to pass an operating referendum.
Yeah. Education and information, and making sure that our community members, the constituents, that and the people that we work with and for are well informed. You know, obviously the formalities and the requirements of the meetings and so on and so forth is very important. And what I explained last time too, my role and my involvement with the last couple referendums that we've had with the Faribault District is just that. Having different meetings, bringing our parents and our community members into the building, literally giving the tours and looking at I think I said the choir risers and how they're aging and need replacement, and walking to the different bathrooms and making, you know, having them see this firsthand of what is needed and why we're asking for the monies and asking for their support to make the improvements. So again, there's a large menu of things that have to be done, and making sure that everyone's informed and educated on why we as a school district, why you as a board, and me as a superintendent would be coming to them, and making sure that there's no confusion. But I'm going to ramble on for one more second, and making sure that the staff understands this as well. You know, having the support. We have what, 110, 120, 130 cheerleaders within our buildings, and people that can get that information out is very important. And so making sure that the staff is, you know, online, informed, and you know, part of that team, and spreading that information out to the communities at large.
Thank you.
Yeah.
if our district needs to reduce expenditures significantly, describe the process you would use with the board, staff, students, and the community.
Sure. 100% support and believe in transparency, being very open and very honest. And I would add to that, there's a time and place for some of the transparency. That early on in the process, when that list of possible cuts is a mile long, knowing that it's going to be reduced and whatnot, there's a time and place when that information should be out and not causing stress and not causing anxiety. That basically we put everything out on the table and try to determine if it's feasible, if it's logical, or where we would move forward with this idea or that idea. Obviously, in these types of situations now within my building, I work very closely with our finance director, our business manager, and finding out again, what the value and what we're looking at as far as reduction amounts. I work very close with our curriculum and instruction, our director of teaching and learning, and understanding the impacts that this interventionist or this position, how that would sort of impact the classrooms and impact the students. And again, that transparency is so important. That if you can understand, if I can understand, if the teachers can understand why we come up with the decisions that we have, why we're making the reductions in the places that we have to, that's really kind of the cornerstone or where things start. So you were asking about strategies and whatnot. It's just having different meetings, having different information sessions, gathering and starting with myself gathering information and learning and working with the cabinet and the district level or the building level administrators, and then passing that information along to making sure that staff understands. Communicating with parents is obviously very important, and communicating with the students where need be is an important part of that process as well. And so, just having opportunities for the stakeholders to come into the building and having myself available and present out in the community is a big part of how I would tackle reductions and budget cuts.
Thank you.
Yes.
As superintendent of NRHEG, how would you consider yourself as successful after year 1, 5, and year 10?
Great, good question. I think the quick response on year 10 is I made it to year 10. And by golly, even at where I'm at right now, going through this interview process and whatnot is obviously it's stressful. It's a big part of preparation and whatnot. So hire me and you got me as long as you want. Retirement's a ways down the road, but answer it again if you would.
And I apologize. You should have a copy of these.
No,
matter
that's all right.
matter of fact.
Right now.
Yeah. Yes. Thank you. But I guess to sum it up, what do you deem a successful year in your career as superintendent of NRHEG? Obviously, we would hope that you would set some goals, but
Right.
what would that look like of you coming off of a year saying, year 1, okay,
Right.
I accomplished this. Year 5, this is where I'd like to be
Yeah.
professionally.
Right.
So,
And I think working with the board and setting those goals is part of my answer. And knowing what, as a representative of the communities at large, knowing what you're looking for, and that's a big part of this process too. Is I know what I'm looking for, and I've applied for schools that seem to be the right fit for me. But we talk about that right fit for you as well. So with those expectations and with what goals that you have set for me, that's what I'm going to look at, and we'll work together and see if my definition of accomplishing those goals, my definition of success in those goals would be the same as yours, and And having, I sound like a broken record, but I'm gonna continue to say things. It's having that open and honest conversation and that communication that, as school board members, you don't want to be surprised by decisions or, things that are happening. As a superintendent, as a building administrator, surprises typically aren't what we're looking for or hoping for. So, working together on knowing what the community wants, working together on what you as a school board are directing the superintendent to do, having that communication and setting the definition of success and setting the definition of goal accomplishment would be very important to me on maintaining and getting better and doing my job the way I'm supposed to be doing it.
Thank you.
Sometimes it's necessary to move people forward toward a direction they do not embrace. How would you accomplish that? Provide an example if you can.
Treating everyone like people. That obviously there are components that this is a business, this is an organization, and tough decisions do have to be made. But we're still in the people business. I still entered education as a people person. As someone that loves to work with students, someone that loves to grow and nurture and mentor, and no matter what my position is in the district, that's who, again, part of my fabric, part of who I am. So, working with a staff member, mentoring a staff member, coaching a staff member, there's different requirements, different regulations that we have to go through, and it may be different union rules or contract language, things of that sort, and making sure we do it step by step and doing everything the way it's supposed to be done, but also treating the person that with respect and with dignity and making sure that they're well informed. The unfortunate part of my job at Faribault Middle School is, again, making the cuts that we've had to make and having those conversations with teachers that are non-renewed based on performance issues and whatnot, and that part is hard. Even after 7 years of practice doing that's a part we don't love. I hate to say I'm getting better at it because that means I'm doing it quite a bit, but the pity party ends real quick when I say, poor me, I have to go through and do this tough job. I'm sitting on the right side of the desk. That person on the other side of the desk they're in a tough spot. Again, if it's a budget cut, if it's a performance cut, whatever the case is, if it's a job reassignment that they might not be in favor of, it's tough on this side, but it's tough on that side. So don't ever lose track that we're dealing with human beings.
Thank you.
What is your plan to effectively evaluate the performance of teachers and building principals? What would happen if a teacher or principal were not making adequate progress or meeting expectations?
Sure.
Kind of piggybacks on
Yeah.
part of what you're saying.
It does. And again, that goes for all people. The evaluations of teachers and whatnot, obviously I would be looking at the leadership of the building administrators and how their system and what they're using with evaluating teachers. I would say that's, in my experience and my expectations, that's more of a building administrator type of job, dealing with the staff members within their building. Part of my job is obviously then dealing with the building leaders or the administration, and really sitting down initially, probably like you would do with me as a superintendent, sitting down and talking about and defining the expectations and making sure that we're on the same starting page, knowing how we're going to move forward, what you're going to be looking for with me, and what I'm going to be looking for with the administrative team, so that they have that clear understanding of kind of their evaluation or their observation. And really, I would say every day is kind of part of that. having that communication, working and mentoring as part of our everyday job as leaders. I don't think I used this quote last time. I think about it often, and I hope I don't ever misuse it, but being a leader is not developing followers. Being a leader is developing more leaders. And having that mentorship, having that coaching is a big part of what I love about my role as a building principal and what I love about my role as being a superintendent.
Thank you.
Yeah.
What influenced and motivated you to become an educational leader and in particular a superintendent? Please include individuals that influenced you.
All right, I'll start with my mom and dad, and that might be kind of that corny type of answer, but it's very true. My mom was an educator. My two sisters are teachers, educators. My brother's an educator. Their spouses are educators. My spouse works in the school system, but in the kitchen. It's part of our blood, it's part of who we are. And my dad was in law enforcement. He actually went to school to be an educator, but chose law enforcement instead. So the values and the person that I am is definitely credit to my parents. All my siblings and their spouses work in the private school sector and the Lutheran school systems. And I'm the black sheep that went public school. I did attend private school or the Lutheran school growing up. I attended a small private high school. In all transparency, I graduated in 1987. And the tuition for my parents to send us 4 kids to school was $2,500 a year. $2,500 a year for a cop and a teacher is a lot of money. And at one time there was 3 of us at Martin Luther Prep School, Prairie du Chien, Wisconsin. 3 of us at school at one time. $7,500 for my parents. And the mid-'80s was a huge sacrifice that they had to make. And I remember that the discussions about how tight it is, how hard that is, and the value that they had in education obviously was very lasting and a big part of my life and who I became as an educator. So the individuals, the people, I would absolutely put my parents very first and foremost. I talked about it often. I'm going to always talk about it, that I love my profession. I love my career. Knowing that I was going into education, knowing that once I was in education that I had the aspirations or goals to move into administration. It was there early and absorbing and being part of different groups and committees and within the organization. I think I talked about the finance committee and the facilities committee and things of that sort, but I was also our negotiator for our principals union. I was a teacher negotiator at one point. I was the teacher union president for one stretch of time, and just kind of getting my feet wet and my brain programmed and understanding all those different parts made me like and made me love this job even more. And so why did I have that drive to be an administrator? Why do I have the drive to be a superintendent? Because that's who I am, and I think I can be impactful to a larger group. I think I can make decisions, and I can impact more lives, students' lives, parents' lives, community members, the community as itself. I think I can bring a lot, and I can lead and do so with dignity and respect, and move an organization, move a school building, move a school district forward, and making improvements for our future.
What is your method of communication from students or superintendent to staff, superintendent to families, and superintendent to communities?
And I think, again, a quick answer, face-to-face at any opportunity. You know, if we have the chance to come into the building, if we have the chance to meet and talk on the street someday, absolutely love that first and foremost. Obviously, you can't get to everyone and make yourself, answer every question, but, my communication, and I think that this has definitely evolved over the years, is sending out weekly newsletters to our staff members, sending out weekly parent newsletters, or newsletters to our parents is what we've really refined and gotten quite good at. My assistant principal really takes care of the logistics of the parent newsletter, but my newsletter that goes out to staff is on me and part of that transparency, part of making sure that people are understand and informed. The last year, working through the pandemic and distance learning and summer planning and coming back to hybrid and whatnot, there can be information overload for sure, but always kind of keeping that thing in mind, working with our staff members to put out daily emails and not sending out 10 emails a day, but kind of condensing things and having a end of the day wrap up information. We moved into a question answer session that we conduct weekly with our staff right now, and basically turn on Google Meets and say, fire away, ask the questions that you're wondering about. We sent out this, or we provided this is what we sent out to parents, and now ask away. Make sure that you understand it, and again, it's that opportunity and availability, making sure that you're there and present for the staff members and the parents and the students. It got to the point where I thought, like, oh, they're probably so sick of me, sitting and looking at me at a screen and whatnot. So I said, let's we don't have to do this every week, do we? And very nice surprise. He said, like, yeah, please, let's put those back in. That it's not enlightenment. The skies are opening up and the lights are shining bright, but it's just that chance that they got that one thing that they're asking, or that little question on their mind, or that clarification that's needed. It's having that opportunity to connect with them.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Today, students have many options, such as charters, online courses, open enrollment, homeschooling, non-public education. Please share your ideas about marketing our school district to retain and/or attract students.
That is so very true. Especially obviously with our online and now students becoming more familiar with and maybe more comfortable with that, and working together as an administrative team and as a district on what we can put out there to make sure that we don't lose students to the online educational programs that are out there. But it is that there's absolutely positively nothing wrong with tooting our own horn and making sure that we're building the programs from within that are very strong and student centered, and making sure that the parents and the students understand all those programs that we have into place. So you talked about, again, the communication and the parent newsletters that we put out do promote the different things that we're doing in our building. It does show the opportunities that students have, and hopefully that's catching the parents' attention. Hopefully they're seeing that, and that's having those positive feelings about what's taking place and keeping the students within our district and within our building. So marketing, I think a lot of it is going to be the 700 students, or the number of students that we have in our district. They are going to be our best marketers. What they go home and what they talk to their mom and dad or grandma and grandpa, or whatever their situation is, that if we can take care of things in the trenches, if we're giving them a positive experience, they're going to go home and they're going to relay that message to their families as well. And that's a huge part of that marketing.
Thank you.
About 25 minutes left?
Doing well.
Share 3 things you are passionate about and why.
I would say I've had some nice learning experiences over the course of my career, but more recently as we're digging into diversity, as we're digging into equity, as we're digging into inclusion more and more. And I think the things that would, the top 3 things on my list of passion would be the fairness for students, the equity, part of it. I'm passionate about hearing and learning, listening and learning from others, and very passionate about providing opportunities and providing growth for students, but for staff members and for myself as well. So, it's so important that the equity part of it is making sure that we can meet the needs of people based on what needs that they have. And what happens here might not always be the same that happens here, but it's really going to be based on the needs that this building has or this program has, and making sure that those needs are met to serve our students. Again, just that learning process, kind of reviewing and summarizing here, the learning process, the listening, the hearing, the opportunity for reflection and growth is very important for me. And then it's exciting, and from what I'm hearing from the staff members, the administrators that I met with before, the pride that's taking place, the pride that is coming from the communities, coming from the parents, coming from the staff members. It's really based on making sure we have those opportunities for our students, that we have the programs in place for them to grow and to develop and to mature, and as a staff and as a district as well, just making sure we have the opportunities to grow as a school board, as a superintendent, as an administrative team.
In your opinion, as a leader, what character traits do you need to improve on the most? What is your plan to overcome these traits?
As a leader, all right. By all means, we're not perfect. I'm not perfect. I think looking back 28 years ago, who I was when I came into the classroom or into the building as a student teacher, if we want to go back far, that early stages, and where I am right now, every year has been a year of growth. Every year has been something that I look at and say, this could be done different. This could been handled in a different way. I think one of the analogies or one of the stories I often talk about is after my first year of teaching, I literally, but also figuratively remember the last day of school, turning around to my shelf and taking my lesson plans and stuff, taking it and throwing it in the garbage and saying, now I know what I'm doing. Now I've learned and can take what I did and I can do it better. How plan to overcome these character traits? I would say, taking that and having that self-reflection and having those conversations and with other people and building that network within the district of relying on one another and literally having that teamwork approach that we will grow together, we will build together, and we'll move forward together is a big part of it. So I didn't necessarily list one characteristic trait. Maybe it's my interview skills. But, You know, we're always learning, we're always growing, and that's a big part of who we are.
Based on the research you've done regarding our school district, what is the #1 initiative that we should focus on over the course of next year? And how would you address this need?
You know, I don't know if I could, the research that I've done has really been looking at the website, you know, kind of digging into that, using the MDE site, looking at some of the finance numbers and trying to have a better grasp on that. I would say the more meaningful research, though, has been with just conversations with employees, past employees, a past parent, one of our paras in our building, one of the employees in the Faribault Middle School was a resident of the district and had rave reviews about leaving her at that time a different district and coming into this district and everyone, all the research that I've done, you know, that personal research has been very consistent and very complimentary of the small community, the tight-knit family that is perceived in the district. So, kudos to you for that. That's fantastic. And again, it's not just the staff members; it's people outside of this district saying that. So, you know, listening to what they have to say and listening to, you know, if that's my research point, I would say that we continue to grow in everything. One of the questions I asked of you last week again is, what are the positives, what are the silver linings that we can take away from this last year of our lives through distance learning and hybrid learning? There's been obviously trials and tribulations, but there's those positive things too. So I think that's what I would look at and say, how did we grow? How did you grow as a classroom teacher? And how did you grow as a paraprofessional? And what did you do different in the kitchen to, you know, provide and be flexible? And those are the things that I want to grasp and say, well, let's not let go of that momentum. Let's take that momentum and keep going. You know, that the different tiers of learning, the differentiation that's taking place in the classroom, the personalized learning component of it. Again, let's grasp that, and let's run with that and go deeper and do better at that.
Please share your thoughts and ideas concerning statewide testing requirements. Every educator's favorite thing to talk about.
You know, yes and no. I think we can all, I shouldn't say we can all. You know, my thought is, you know, having some sort of standardized assessment like that there's definitely value in that. You know, I think of the ACT and the PSAT and things like that, where, you know, they're ingrained and they're entrenched and they're reputable. I think what bugs me the most, and I think what bugs many people the most, is how we use that and how that's splashed on the front page of the newspapers and how that's, you know, projected as the bar, the measurement of who we as a district. You know, those 3, 6, 9 days that we use throughout in the spring of the year to have that assessment and I mean that small amount of time and that one measurement to be that label on us doesn't seem pretty accurate, doesn't seem pretty appropriate, you know, for I guess maybe the lack of a better word. But there's value in that. And again, the value is making some assumptions. We're making the assumptions that students are trying their hardest. We're making the assumptions that they're not going to just see, and again, we're going to base our reputation on that. So that's our job too. You know, we set the goals with the students, and we have those you know, maybe intrinsic motivators and different things that we can do in the classroom to help the students, you know, truly give their all. But they're there. They went away, and there was talk that they might stay away again this year. But I guess the reality is that they are here, that we're going to have them, and we can't necessarily escape the negatives that go along with it, but let's take the data, but let's use that information the best we can to improve what we're doing. And again, the value that's there is how can we use that in the classroom and change, potentially change some teaching strategies and what needs to be done. So I guess maybe depends on the mood I'm in on my support for them.
What lessons have you learned from career decisions that did not turn out the way you expected?
Sure. I think the biggest learning moment that I've had in my career would be trying to do too much at one time. With some of our structuring that we had at Faribault Middle School, that it happened to be with my current district, revamping the middle school philosophy and enhancing the middle school philosophy was needed. It was what kind of the expectations that we had, and there was a lot of great things that came out of it and that we still are operating under right now. But we did too much too fast. We learned from living the moment and having that plan and making sure that we were taking. We did take steps along the way, but I think looking back and maybe taking smaller steps along the way and maybe having a 5-year rollout rather than a 3-year rollout or a 1-year rollout. Looking at that, I would say that decision, if I'm answering this question right, I guess that decision that I made in my career as a professional, I definitely learned that look at that big picture and make sure that we don't go too fast, too soon, but make sure that we have the appropriate pacing on that. Is that the right career decision that I'm reading, or?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Thank you.
Yeah.
What are the top 3 things the school board can do to help you be successful as our superintendent? Please describe what we need to do.
The top 3 things I think is just keeping that open mindset, working together, keeping the open mindset, having proper communication, and what I would want you to do for me, and what I would want you to do for me, for the students and the staff, is just to keep that communication open and honest, and not guessing. I talked about the surprises. Let's not. I don't want to throw surprises at you. I don't want necessarily big surprises coming to me. And through that open and honest conversation, we can avoid that sort of thing. So, being part of the transition, and a new superintendent coming in, I think working together and helping me become comfortable with the community at large, the school community, the communities that we live in and whatnot, and helping me learn more about that is a important factor in my success as well. So, we all are in this for the same reason, right? We're all in this for students. We're all in this for our future generations, and if we can continue to have that focus, we're going to do the job the right way, and we're going to attack it and move forward together.
Thank you.
In your opinion, what should the role of the superintendent be in staff evaluation? Include all employee categories.
I think that's going to vary a little bit district by district. My experience and the kind of the mindset that I would have coming in would be, we have people in different positions. We have different administrative or leadership positions to address the different categories or the different groups of staff members. I'm not trying to avoid that sort of thing, but there are people that probably would have more information and more in the know about the performance or the job that certain people are doing. I think as the leader of the district, the superintendent of schools, the door is there, the opportunity is there to work with admin or work with leaders and work, and I talked about the coaching and the mentoring as a big part of what we do. I think that's an important part of any leader. And again, I'll repeat it again, and it's not building followers, it's building more leaders and that capability and capacity to go out and lead within our areas, to lead within our classrooms or within our departments or within our union groups or whatever the case is, that I more so see myself leading the other leaders and helping them become leaders and kind of developing the expectations again, talk about the list of expectations, making sure that there's clear expectations set and there's proper communication taking place.
Thank you.
Yep.
All staff members are valuable, whatever their role and responsibility. Describe the process you would use to empower staff to voice new ideas and involve them in decision-making.
I've said it a few times, and it's really kind of the foundation of this answer as well. Just the different committees, the different advisory groups, you know, making myself available to the community, to the staff member, but also making sure that I'm available to them, but I want them to be available to be part of the process too. And setting up those groups or establishing those advisory councils. Establishing, you know, looking at what you have right now, and maybe the programs are set in place for that, and continuing on with those councils and those groups and those organizations that work together. Maybe there's a different committee that needs to be formed, but making sure that there's those opportunities for staff members to be involved. And I think in that process as well, it's also very important that you know, kind of these expectations are set that input is very much needed. You know, understanding and education and information is very much needed. And if the responsibility, the decision-making lies on my shoulders, that I'll take that responsibility on and make sure that I make that decision based on the research, the data, the input, and you know, that's what also what you pay me for, that you pay your leaders for, is to make those decisions based on the input of the different groups. So making sure those groups and committees are established, and then making sure that the expectations and the roles are very well laid out too, that it is the information gathering and decision making still lies within the structure that's in place.
Thank you. Well, that concludes the list of questions that we had prepared for you, and again, we appreciate that. You've had a couple days since your first round here. We're going to offer, we have just a few minutes available here. If anything has become in your mind that you would like us to answer here as board members, we might not get the answer right.
Yeah.
We'll do our best. If there's anything you would like to ask us.
Yeah, I appreciate that, and thinking again and knowing that's kind of you know, maybe the norm and whatnot. But I would tell you too, just the information and the communication that we had through the first round, and having a 2-hour tour with your current superintendent and learning quite a bit through that, and meeting with the leadership group. I would say, you know, I appreciate all those times, all that time that was invested, and I've learned quite a bit through that. And you know, there's no glaring questions that I have, though, on top of my mind right now. That
Wonderful.
I feel comfortable. I appreciate this opportunity. Again, I told the last committee that it felt more like just conversation, and not necessarily that grilling or that drilling of interview questions. Just sitting down and talking and getting to know me, and getting me for having an opportunity for me to know them was very helpful, and I feel very comfortable where I'm at with the
Great.
district.
Well, we appreciate the kind words you shared with us about our district too, and we are proud of our district here, and thank you for making some of those noticeable. But at this time, this would conclude, I guess, unless anybody else would like to ask anything further. But you understand your schedule here yet?
Yeah,
We will proceed into a community portion of the afternoon, early evening here. And once again, thank you again for your
Yeah.
interest and your professionalism through both of these interviews.
The
Thank
honor,
you.
the privilege is mine, so thank each and every one of you. I truly mean, I appreciate the time and the commitment that you made to me to learn more about me, and it's very much appreciated, so thank you all.
Great, great.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Well, if this concludes our business of the official board meeting this afternoon, so at this time, I would entertain a motion to adjourn.
So move.
Second.
Motion made by Mr. Miller, seconded by Mr. Schoenrock to adjourn. All in favor, say aye.
Hi.
Opposed? Motion carries. We are adjourned. Thank you, everyone. Thanks for joining virtually today with us, too.
Michael, do you want to go back in the office for a little bit and
Sounds good. And
relax?
5, 1:45 or so?
5 o'clock.
Okay. Okay, thank you.
We'll come back and get you.